Joining us now, the host of MSNBC's Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough.
I'm a big fan of your show, but Joe should interrupt you less.
Whose new book, Saving Freedom, Truman, the Cold War, and the Fight for Western Civilization, comes out this coming Tuesday. Also joining us for this discussion, we have columnist and associate editor for The Washington Post, David Ignatius, and historian and Rogers Chair in the American Presidency at Vanderbilt University, Jon Meacham, who we should mention unofficially advises President-elect Joe Biden. And Joe, my mother loved the book. It's a great book. You take a look at President Truman's efforts to build an international coalition against the Soviet Union after the end of the Second World War, a legacy that continues to influence American foreign policy today. So what can President-elect Joe Biden learn from the Truman presidency?
I mean, that's a great question because a lot of people are talking about FDR right now, but really the incoming president should look to Harry Truman. I mean, because the United States is facing a world order that's in crisis. We've got Europe shutting down again. You've got the economic growth of the past generation shattered over the past 9 months. Jobless claims, we've just learned over the past 5 minutes, are going up again for the first time in several months. Western democracy is in retreat in Hungary and Poland, across parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And we once again have an emergent global power that is making the United States an uncomfortable partner in a bipolar world. And that's, of course, what Harry Truman faced. He also faced the challenge of finishing World War II and bringing global order out of that terrible conflict. Well, of course, President Biden's challenge is going to be to win the war against a global pandemic that, again, has shattered our world economy and will, by the time he reaches office, will probably have killed 3/4 of the number of Americans who died in all of World War II. So Biden should look to Truman's example. I've talked to Jon Meacham about this as far as the parallels and the examples. But Biden should look to that. And he faces this world in chaos. If he's going to prevail, though, he should look to Truman's best qualities, candor. I mean, everybody that worked with Harry Truman knew he was a very frank person. Just ask music reviewers for The Washington Post who gave bad reviews to his daughter. He took responsibility. Unlike the current occupant of the White House, the man who said the buck stops here, Harry Truman believed it, and he acted that way. He also, and this is so important, he surrounded himself with the best and the brightest minds available, despite the fact that he graduated, his highest graduation achievement was from Spalding Commercial College in Kansas City. He surrounded himself with General George Marshall, Dean Acheson, George Kennan, Averell Harriman, a young Clark Clifford, the best and brightest minds, not only of their generation, but maybe over the past century. And also, most importantly, bipartisanship. It's not in vogue right now. And yes, Truman could be cantankerous. He would attack Republicans. But like Joe Biden, he built bipartisan alliances throughout his time in the Senate. So when he was forced to do what nobody thought was possible, confronting Stalin and the Soviets, he knew he could only pass the Truman Doctrine, the Marshall Plan, NATO, and the other sweeping agenda items that would forever change America's place on the world stage. Could only pass that through a Republican Congress with bipartisan support. And that was no easy task. He had been president, put into the presidency. Republicans were sick and tired of being in the minority throughout FDR's entire term. So they didn't want to deal with this Democrat. But Truman figured out a way to make Arthur Vandenberg and even Mr. Republican, the famed isolationist Robert Taft, do the same. And it made all the difference, not only in his time, but in our time as well.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.